best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine?
You think you've seen the sun, but you ain't seen it shine.
Hello everyone and welcome once again to Ask the Treksperts, the show where we answer your questions about Star Trek. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Sarah.
Sarah, I don't have a specific name this week for our question. A number of people sent us questions about this, and we thought we would do a quick response video. I don't know how much we're going to have to say about this topic, but I thought we would go ahead and throw our 2 cents in, throw our hats into the ring on this. The question was, how do we feel about the verdict from the Trekkies at the Las Vegas convention over the summer that Star Trek Into Darkness is the worst Star Trek film ever made? This thing, it seems like this made national news. I saw this everywhere, and I was getting a lot of messages from people about it and stuff, and they're like, "You're not going to believe this, but yeah, out of the 12 Star Trek films we have, they voted that." And they didn't just vote it that way. Like, when it came up, I read about this. When it came up, the audience was, like, booing and hissing it. It was like
wow.
this, yeah. But if I remember right, they voted Abrams' first film, like, number 6 or something. Mm-hmm. So it isn't just that they're all hating on Abrams, though there's clearly a lot of that going on. They're vicious about this movie. And so anyway, we were asked why we think a lot of old school Star Trek fans, prime continuity Trek fans are hating on Darkness so much, and why that got voted over 5, over Nemesis, why it got voted that way. So anyway, what do you think the reasons are? How preposterous do you find this? Go ahead.
Well, right off, I do want to say that I think it is unfair. I wouldn't put it at the worst movie up there. Personally, I don't think it's that bad. I guess I could see why a lot of people would dislike it. I wasn't a big fan of the movie when I saw it, but I would certainly put Nemesis as a worse movie than this one. Probably, maybe about 20 notches worse than this one. But I don't know. I think there are probably a lot of old school Trekkies that just don't like what they did to Khan in this. That would be my thought. I think the movie was totally ripping off of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and it hit all the same plot points, or tried to, especially toward the end, but did them all wrong for the wrong reasons, and did them all less well. So it's more of a shadow of the great film it was trying to be, or trying to imitate. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and re-review the film, because we have talked about it at length. We did a long podcast on it with Brandon, and clearly I liked the movie a little more than you did, mostly because I was surprised that there was a story there. Yeah. I actually enjoyed a lot of the directions they went with it. Did I like what they did with Khan? I loved the actor, but no, I wished he hadn't been so oversimplified. But is that enough to make it the worst Star Trek movie ever made? I mean, I can kind of understand it in the sense of, well, none of the others are total blatant retreads, but au contraire, that's not exactly accurate either, because Nemesis is doing quite a bit of Wrath of Khan. Yeah. Even Star Trek 11 was doing quite a bit of Wrath of Khan, and with the SETI eel looking thing that goes in the mouth instead. Clearly, there's a lot of homaging going on. But I mean, like when they wrote Nemesis, it was John Logan who wrote that movie, and he kept going on and on about how cool it was that finally Picard had his Khan, which is ludicrous because Picard's Khan was a clone of himself. All right, whatever. And that he did nothing to warrant any sort of revenge, which is what you would expect. Picard's Khan would be the guy that wanted to kill Khan because he wronged him in some way.
Wanted to kill Picard, yeah.
Picard, because he wronged him in some way.
Yeah. The only thing Picard did to Shinzon is exist. And
And
It's silly.
without him, he wouldn't have existed in the first place. So it's
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, yeah.
But I'm just saying this is not the first time we've ripped off Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, no, certainly,
Clearly.
but I think this was the most blatant ripoff of Wrath of
Oh,
Khan.
yeah,
And
without
there's
a doubt.
There's a difference between homaging something and ripping it off, which is what I feel. And
I
what
think
I
Nemesis
know
still in places
lot of,
ripped it off,
Yeah,
but
well,
yeah,
sure. But this was more blatant, and I think a lot of
But blatant on
fans
purpose.
out there feel that but you shouldn't blatantly rip off something. You can blatantly homage it.
yeah.
But I mean, they were going scene by scene. They were putting lines in there. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's as bad as Superman Returns, but I had that feeling when I was watching this movie.
Okay, that's it. Yeah,
You know, going back to
that's fair.
They were ripping dialogue.
I'm just playing devil's advocate for a moment, though. There is the issue of this is an alternate universe.
Sure.
There is the issue of things are happening differently than they did before, and is it? It's perhaps contrived. Well, it's not perhaps. It's contrived that we get Kirk and Spock into a place where they're saying a lot of the same kinds of dialogue that they did in Wrath of Khan, and in a situation that frankly is just too different to warrant it.
Yeah.
I mean, it still has to do with Khan, but Khan wasn't the big threat until that moment. Mm-hmm. And so that makes it a little bit strange as well. So yeah, I can see why people have a huge problem with it. I can also see why it didn't bother some people. What I'm saying is, people that aren't really big Trekkies that knew Wrath of Khan but didn't have as much of an investment in it in the grand scheme of canon, I can see why they thought why some folks saw it more as clever retread as opposed to ripping it off. I mean, it didn't even bother me as much the first time I saw it because I was just impressed that there was actually a story going on. Yeah, frankly, I wasn't even.
I did appreciate that. I appreciated that we had a story. It was a decent story, I think.
Yeah.
And I liked that the villain had a motive after how many films without a decent villain motive.
Both of them, really.
And so that's why I can't, even though I have problems with this movie, and I have some real serious problems with this movie, I can't just dump the whole thing in the wastebasket and say it's the worst thing ever, Trek has ever put out, and all the other movies, as bad as some of them might be, are just, way above it. I can't do that. It would probably be middle of the pack for me. But
I think it's middle of the pack also. This let me make no bones about this. This movie, this new franchise, and I know you'll agree with this, it's not what I want from Star Trek.
No.
We are bordering on science fantasy before we're even on science fiction anymore. Not that we've got magic or anything, but it's just that it's not even attempting to be a real world.
Cold fusion that freezes a volcano.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does silly things like that, and yeah, a lot of people who aren't really invested in what Star Trek was see that kind of thing as nitpicking. But the issue is, Star Trek was pioneering science fiction. The original series, by and large, had such an attention to detail of trying to look into the future and come up with things that could theoretically potentially happen. Was it sometimes really silly? Yeah, sure. Was it sometimes impossible to buy the things? But yeah, sure. But there was an attempt. They tried. At the very least, they had, and all the way up through Enterprise, though you can't really tell a lot of the time with that show, or Voyager, really. There was always a scientific consultant. Mm-hmm. You can tell these movies don't have that.
Yeah. Otherwise, there are certain mistakes, I would call them, that they certainly wouldn't have made.
So my point is, the reason I criticize it for that is because it's just not thoughtful.
Yeah.
In that regard,
it
sees technobabble as you just throw some words together, and maybe they even actually mean something in the real world, but in this universe they mean something else.
Yeah, something different.
Star Trek technobabble, and I'm not saying that I like that so many things were explained away through that. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. I'm not saying that Star Trek didn't ever make mistakes. If you ever came to our Star Trek club, you'll see that we make fun of Star Trek as much or more than we say nice things about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of bad it's Star Trek, okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not unrealistic about
With
this.
so many episodes, you're going to have several bad ones, and there are some really bad ones out there. But there's a lot of good.
But what they would do is they would create new terminology that for things that we have not yet invented, but that could potentially happen later on.
Yeah.
And I don't even say sometimes, very often, especially starting with TNG, they would kind of just throw together something that sort of sounded good to sort of skimp by a plot point and give us a 5-minute wrap up at the end of an episode so that we could, get everything wrapped up. But you get to these movies and they're using real scientific terminology to make that. I get why Star Trek fans don't like these movies, is what I'm saying. And it's not just a matter of science and technobabble.
Yeah.
It's a matter of the big ideas just aren't there.
Yeah.
And that's why people weren't. That's why I had so many issues with the first film. Is that it's just not about anything. It's fun, it's entertaining, but it's not really about anything. What we had with Darkness was a movie that was more entertaining in my mind than the first one, and was finally kind of about something. The big ideas were sort of back.
Yeah. As opposed to just getting everybody together, characters we'd seen before, but in a different universe, and going off to, try to save Vulcan, but failing.
Yeah.
And then trying to save Earth and succeeding.
So I don't think this is fair at all.
Yeah, no, I don't. What movie do you think would be your worst?
See, that's so tough because, and I think maybe you and I have even ranked them in the past, although
Yeah.
I don't remember what our rankings were, and it was years ago. But it seems to me like the difficulty is in deciding what is the hardest one to sit through or the one that is critically the worst of them. Mm-hmm. Critically the worst of them is probably, at least before the TNG films, it was always 5.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even know if I would put 5 above Nemesis now as the worst. And I mean, I hate that. Again, Nemesis has some entertaining bits. It looks great.
Yeah.
It's got that over 5. It looks great, 5 did some pretty shoddy production things also.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would say that the hardest for me to sit through is Insurrection, because a TNG episode, a one-part TNG episode did that better.
Yes.
Insurrection is basically Who Watches the Watchers done wrong. Mm-hmm. And with...
Well, it's a combination of that one and then the one in Season 7 that wasn't very good, but was still, I think, better than Insurrection.
Are you talking about with the... with the Native Americans?
With Worf's... was it half-brother Nikolai?
Oh,
who was trying to transport that
I haven't
alien
seen
species
that forever. Yeah.
by tricking them with the holodeck ship. I mean, he was trying to, he had them in a cave and then he transported them to another, I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen that one because it's that bad.
Movies have, a movie has an issue when a lot of the actors working on it don't agree with the message.
Yeah. Yeah, the message that Starfleet should translocate these people because they claim the right to the planet.
Well, actually, the deal was, and it's just been a while since I've watched this, but actually, it was kind of the opposite of that. I mean, like Picard and crew turn against Starfleet and try to keep the rights of these people protected to keep hold of this entire planet.
Oh, that's right.
When it wasn't that Patrick Stewart's deal, and frankly I think a lot of the actors deal wasn't so much that they thought the Baku were in the right. Mm-hmm. It was that they're like a colony of 400 or 500 people, and they're on this whole freaking planet.
I was always confused about that. Why couldn't they just, whatever Starfleet wanted to do, or couldn't they just do it to the other side of the planet?
Yeah.
I never understood that. I always found that plot.
It was really strange, and keep in mind, of
confusing.
course, that the Baku ran off this other sect of their people that are still—they're calling themselves the Sona now, but they're still basically Baku, and they just ran them off into space, and they've now kind of turned terrorists, but they have rights, to claim to the planet too. Mm-hmm. At least at the end, they get to rejoin their people, So I mean, that's good. But yeah, the whole premise just seemed kind of wrong. And frankly, a movie called Insurrection should just be larger scale than that, I think. And I hate to complain about a Star Trek film not being large scale enough, because then we had a series of movies that were where the scale was put in front of the ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you have to look at these things on a case-by-case basis. The issue with Insurrection, part of the issue with Insurrection was that it just wasn't big enough from its inception.
I think
for the idea
the problem is
when you have advertising of like lock and load, that's not the movie that you would, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think the problem with Insurrection wasn't so much the scale of it, although I guess the scale of it was a result of this problem that I'm going to say. But I think it's just that we didn't care. It's not that the stakes weren't high enough, it's that what were the stakes? I mean, they could have just solved this easily so many other different ways.
And why was Picard throwing his whole career away over these people? It was too conventional. Well, conventional is not even the right word. It was, again, we've got Picard trying to be an action hero, and you've got these, and you've got Picard basically just being lured into obsessing over these people because he falls in love with some chick, and that's not Picard. Picard wouldn't do that.
Too convoluted, and it was just. It didn't have to go that way. It was like they wanted this plot to go this certain way, and so they didn't allow themselves to look at any other options. They said, well, even though these other options would have been probably the direction these characters would have gone, and it would have circumvented the entire plot of the movie, we're going to force them to go down this path because that's what we want.
I will say the three that make me cringe the most are Insurrection, Nemesis, and 5. Although 5, it makes me laugh. Like 5 does have the it's so bad it's good phenomenon.
Yeah.
I don't hate being in a crowd watching that because it can be fun. But no, it's not a good movie by any stretch
I
of the
wouldn't go
imagination.
so far as it's so bad it's good. I'd go it's so bad it's funny.
Yeah, but that's what that means. You know, it's funny good. It's preposterous.
There are movies that are so bad that I actually like them.
Okay.
But they're also funny.
What is your worst?
Nemesis.
Even over Generations? Because I know you don't like Generations.
I don't like Generations. Nemesis is at the point where I almost don't think I could put that in the player and watch it again.
Wow.
I start throwing things at the screen. I make a mess everywhere. It's bad.
She does.
Yeah.
There's like hot dogs on the floor. It's not good.
Generations is also bad. And then I would also put Insurrection if you want to put my worst 3
Just
up
the
there.
TNG films aren't that good. I'm sorry, they're not. You know, I mean,
Picard as an action hero,
at least for
really?
First Contact is
Come
fun
on,
to
you're
watch,
taking
but
the diplomat who's supposed to be the end. You know, the playing off of Kirk was the action guy.
Yeah.
Picard is the diplomat guy. So he's suddenly doing a double jump kick, to some evil villain's face, and we don't even know the motive of the villain.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Patrick Stewart was already in his 60s at that point. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just that and it was ridiculous anyway because that's not the character that was.
Yeah.
There's no reason that we couldn't do really interesting, thought-provoking science fiction with the Picard as a diplomat character and still do some big-scale action on top of it. Picard doesn't have to be throwing punches for you to have action in a TNG episode.
Well,
It's not like TNG didn't have plenty of action and a lot of better action than TOS because it was,
You had the visual effects and
we were in the 90s at that point and we could do better things on TV. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think the TNG films suffered a lot from just having to do the thing that we think has worked in the past.
He was also a good battle strategist. It's not like you couldn't have Picard running point, shooting stuff in space.
Have him on the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean...
He could be an action hero in that capacity.
In Wrath of Khan,
the man knew how to deal with that kind of
were
thing.
never even on screen together.
Exactly.
They didn't throw a punch. And yet that movie was riveting. Mm-hmm. They were just...
But
it was like
Darkness
playing chess.
had to do it with 1,000 punches.
Yeah. But it was intended for a mass audience, and people only understand, apparently, fistfights.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I get why they're catering to a different kind of audience now. I can't get too terribly upset about that because, at least the movies are kind of entertaining. I still like watching them. They're not what I want, but I can't get too greedy because what other franchise that I love has 5 films and 10 movies before this new continuity?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And so...
five series. Yeah.
What did I say?
You said 5 films.
But five series.
Yeah.
And 11 and 10 films before this new franchise.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't really mind that the franchise is splitting off in a new direction. I just want it to still be a smart direction.
Yeah. But I also think you could do this and something else at the same time if you wanted to. Paramount is really all that's to blame right now, because Abrams wanted to do a TV show at the same time, and Paramount won't let him. The thing you got to keep in mind is that a lot of this has to do with the way you tell stories on film and the way you tell stories in serialized television. Now that's not to say that every movie has to be really dumbed down. That would be a stupid thing to say. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At the same time, in the history of Star Trek, most of the time the films have been more bigger attempts at mass audience stuff. This really is just a natural progression of what we always had, if you think about it.
Yeah.
This is the natural progression given what we did with the TOS films, right? Mm-hmm. And so all I'm saying is, if it was on TV, in order to keep people interested and involved week to week, it would probably have to be smarter storytelling.
Yeah.
There would have to probably be, I don't know, storytelling. But I'm just saying, like, the big ideas would probably need to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to straight up write Abrams off and say he's not capable of that. I think that this was a business decision.
Yeah. It's
By
what,
and large.
what it seems like. So.
But anyway, Darkness I found extremely entertaining. I think it is full of fantastic performances. I was so impressed with Bruce Greenwood, both in his big speech to Kirk, which I still say is one of the best speeches in Star Trek. And it's not fair to put this movie at the bottom of the rung, at the bottom rung, when at least it has this fantastic Pike speech to Kirk toward the beginning, whether you like where that went or not. But also his death sequence.
And it's at least better made than 5.
Yeah.
I mean, structurally, it's a better film than 5. So, I don't know.
But I mean, I plan to buy it when it comes out. I know I made a big deal out of how much I liked it when it first came out, and then we did a podcast, and some people complained because I ranted and raved about it, and then we did a podcast where we kind of ripped it apart. The thing you got to keep in mind is I can like something and still realize that it has problems. Mm-hmm. And if it's Star Trek, you and I knowing our Trek so well, it's really hard not to look at every nook and cranny and kind of examine all of it, because we only get Star Trek every 4 years now, folks. And we want to talk about it. We want to see what's there. But that didn't. I want everybody to understand. This is just for my part. I just want everybody to understand that it didn't change my enjoyment of the film. I just started picking up on weird kind of careless mistakes that it made and that sort of thing. Now I know you didn't like it as well as I did.
No, I didn't. But I still think it would be unfair to put it at the very bottom of the list. So.
You'd watch it again before. Probably half of them. Maybe no.
Probably.
You'd watch it again before 11.
Yeah, I would. I enjoyed it, but more than 11. 11 I was disappointed just because I had really gotten my hopes up for this new franchise and for new Star Trek, for real intelligent Star Trek, and I think it was a disappointment to see it, but it was still fun.
Because the thing you have to remember is that from our perspective, Sarah and I were watching Enterprise when it was on, together, and from our perspective, this was a chance at getting Trek smart again. Okay, this was not an issue of oh man, you took our Voyager and Enterprise away from us and you gave us Abrams' new continuity. No, it's not on par with Enterprise, really. As far as no, it's better than a lot of Enterprise.
No, it's better than Enterprise. I would watch the first movie before I'd watch Enterprise again.
And that's not to say that Enterprise never did any great episodes, but I'm talking mostly first couple seasons.
Yeah, and just overall as a whole.
It was really lazy a lot.
Yeah.
A lot
so
of
I was
time.
hoping that with a new creative team, with a new director, with new life breathing into the
bring
franchise,
it back to its roots again,
yeah,
and with going back to TOS,
exactly.
You bring it back to its roots again.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of let's get some more Trek fans, with this big film, let it reach out to the general public a little bit.
Yeah.
So that, okay, if somebody doesn't want to come in and jump on with, 700 episodes and 10 movies, okay, well, let's start it over. Let's get some new blood into it. And so maybe people can feel like this is a jumping on point and then go back and watch the rest of it later. Okay, so a lot of people jumped on and liked it, but it's not really the Star Trek that the ideas and the big concepts and the science fiction that I was hoping for.
Thought-provoking, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have to really credit it for a lot of things, okay? I have to credit it for... I'm going to end on this note. I'll finish my part on this note. I think that it has... absolutely reinvigorated Star Trek in the minds of the general public, and I don't think that it has dumbed it down in the minds of the general public. I think that the stories are doing that to a degree. The first one more than the second one, but it's gotten people going back and watching original series that never did before, and a lot of them really like it. So people are picking up on the interesting character dynamics in the movie, and then they're going to TOS and they're realizing that there were even more interesting character dynamics going on sometimes in that show. You have people like Dan Torrey who watched the first Star Trek movie, liked it, went and saw original series and fell in love with the triad, which is pretty much missing in these movies. And then went back to the original, or to that first movie again, that first Abrams film, and Dan said, well, Spock is not as interesting in these as he was in the original series. And a lot of people are kind of picking up on that. So I mean, I have to give it credit for, the characters are close enough to what they were that people go to the original series and they don't feel like, oh my god, these are totally different people. But at the same time, they're able to pick up on these cool nuances and interesting character dynamics that these movies just don't have or don't have time to do.
Right. Yeah.
So I really appreciate it for that. Man, we've seen so much prime continuity merchandising in the last 8 years now since these things have come out. I mean, Star Trek is really back, and what's really cool is we've not forgotten.
Yeah.
What prime continuity with this stuff. And so anyway, if Enterprise had just gone off the air and we hadn't had this stuff, Star Trek wouldn't be in the minds of the public like it is now.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, did you have anything else?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Of course, who knows what they're going to do with the next one? The regular diehard Trekkies obviously aren't going to want it or like it, probably, whatever it is. And of course, I count myself among the diehard Star Trek fans, but I just feel like folks need to relax a little bit on this and take a step back and realize that it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it certainly could. I mean. Yeah,
and that's not even fair. It could be bad. These movies are not bad.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that. They're enjoyable movies, and if you just want to sit down with a bowl of popcorn,
they're watchable.
Pop them in, yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to give it that I totally forgot to say earlier, and some people are not going to agree with this, but this is just how I feel about it. Chris Pine is every bit the actor William Shatner was during his TOS days.
Oh yeah, no, the acting is great.
He is Captain Kirk,
movies,
and in Darkness he's even more so.
Yeah.
And they do a few really cool lit shots where he just looks like Shatner on the bridge. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. But and it's like you were saying. I mean, the existence of these two films, whatever you think of them, it doesn't just make the rest of Star Trek canon disappear.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a great run of Star Trek, and we can go back and watch it anytime we want because we have it on box
and it's
sets
easier now than it ever used to be if you've got a Netflix account,
or whatever. And so it's
or
just,
Amazon Prime, or
if you're in the mood to watch original, Star Trek, you can watch original Star Trek.
There's kind of a flavor for everybody
exactly.
now. And maybe it would be fair to just call this yet another flavor.
Yeah, maybe so. I know people who only watch Enterprise.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, they're only fans of that series. Okay, I know people
they
who
like
only
those characters,
watch Deep Space Nine or only watch original series.
But especially folks that only watch TNG.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, the great thing about Star Trek is that there is something for everybody.
Well, that's going to be it for us. Everybody, thanks as always for watching Ask the Treksperts, and if you have something you'd like us to talk about in a future episode, an episode you'd like us to review from a series, or a topic you'd like us to discuss, leave that in the comments, and let us know what you think about this topic. Was it fair or not fair to call Star Trek Into Darkness the worst Star Trek film ever made? And what do you think is the worst Star Trek film ever made? Do you agree with us, or is there even another movie that you dislike a whole lot, or do you think that ours are that the movie we picked for our worst are great movies, and you hate us for saying that. Leave that in the comments. Also, Sarah, next time I want to do something we've never done before. I want to really. I haven't told you about this. I want to really jump in, plunge ourselves into something that we have avoided for 4 years on this show.
Are we going to review Gambit?
That we have that we've been asked a few times to talk about. We've not done yet. Now, I'm not going to promise if we're going to do an episode review or if we're going to do more of a series overview. I don't know what we're going to do yet. But next time on the show, I want to tackle some animated series. We've never done it, and I think now's the time.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm ready.
So something TAS next time, and in the meantime, thanks as always for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Sarah.
And we'll see you later.
The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Come the day you're mine.
Jason, buddy, this is not the show we're doing.
Well, that's what you're doing.